Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. This is 2025 and it's off to a bang already. So, this is our first show, and I am so delighted to have Jenna Gardner here. We are going to talk about AI and marketing, specifically from an SMB perspective. So, it's going to be an opportunity for people who are listening in. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. We should be able to see them and we'll try to answer as many questions if anybody chooses to put any questions on as well. So, Jenna, welcome to the show and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you, thank you. And I know that you have been so active on different social media platforms talking about AI in general. That's actually how I found you, just as context for everybody on the show who's watching the show. And I wanted to start by asking you that you've been focusing specifically around SMBs, right? So I wanted to start by asking a very general question to up front before we even get to the AI section, which is what do you see are the biggest marketing challenges that SMBs face today?
I think we could talk about the whole hour on that because there's a lot. There's a
Yeah.
lot for us. It's for everybody, but I think SMBs feel it the most just because they just have such limited um, resources sometimes, especially when comes to marketing. So I
Yeah.
think the big overall theme of the challenge is having to do more with less
Mhm.
because SMBs typically don't have those large marketing budgets that are really helpful and needed for the growth needed.
Mhm.
But then you're also needed to do more because there's so many channels. You're also kind of needed to be a data expert as well. And within all those channels is that there needs to be fueled by content. So it's a really big lift for
Mhm.
folks, and it's hard to keep up.
I completely understand. I was talking to a founder of a company here in Chicago just a couple of days ago, and she was literally saying exactly, almost verbatim to what you just said. you know, so I totally understand what you're saying. So when you are when these companies have such a big lift that's involved, you saw an opportunity to start talking about AI and marketing from an SMB perspective. So tell me, what was that aha moment that happened for you?
Oh, it happened quickly. It was, early days of ChatGPT when it was launched in November. I came around in early December. And when I
Yeah.
started playing with it, I think a lot of us that have played with it have the
Mhm.
same experience of just like, oh my goodness, the possibilities. And then you have like 3 sleepless nights of just playing with it. So it was very quick I was like, can you do this? Because a lot of my background, of course, is marketing,
Mhm.
did paid media, but then recently a lot of content marketing. And
Mhm.
this is perfect for content marketing. It is so effective. So as soon as I could see how much it could generate and then how you could at the time manipulate, but just kind of work with it to really get a better output, it was just, oh wow, you're just limited by your own creativity.
Sure, sure. So are there specific areas that you started identifying early on as to where SMBs could benefit from an AI tooling perspective?
Absolutely. So, content generation is the best first place to start because that's where large language models are just so the best at because
Yeah,
they're language models and so really play
yeah.
towards the strengths. And also that's a side of where it's a huge lift and a time suck for folks, but it's really important to put out quality content. And
Mhm,
so I think that generating that, whether it be emails, and then also segmenting your emails too, segmenting your messaging,
mhm,
segmenting your landing pages. So
mhm,
it's not just generating content, but it's also improving your content as well,
mhm.
improving your marketing material. I think a lot of people think about AI and it's like, how do we do things faster and cheaper?
Yeah.
Which is a part of it, but I think we always have to think about how can we do it better and more effectively. And this
Mhm.
gives you that time to really think through your messaging and to tighten it up because you have that feedback.
So I want to dive a little bit deeper into this because I totally agree with you. Everybody talks about efficiency, like days saved, money saved, etc. But actually, there's the flip side to that, which is the value add that you get from these tools, right? And
Absolutely.
people don't are. So when you talked about content, your and content quality, um, unpack that a little bit more for me in terms of how are you thinking about content quality being improved because of AI?
It's so now you're because you are able to make it faster, then you're
Yeah.
able to take a step back and think about even strategically, is this the right piece of content?
Ah,
You
yeah.
can
That's,
test different variations of the content to see what's
mhm.
better so you can improve by learnings and optimize that way.
Yeah.
And then you have more time to feed through and just, okay, I've made it. And then use the AI too. Is there a way to say this more clearly?
Hmm.
Is there too much jargon? Am I talking too much about the features? Because we always get stuck in that. Like,
Yeah.
especially if you're really passionate about what you do, you want
Mhm.
everyone to know how you do it. And in marketing, that's not what people want to know about. They want to know what
Yeah.
it'll do for them. And so being able to sharpen and continue to refine
Mhm.
AI makes that much more achievable. And it's not just a tool, but it's a teammate too, which
Yeah.
is such a cool shift. And I think that we're going to continue to see that shift much more in our workplace. And
Mhm.
so utilizing it as a teammate too to advise and bounce off ideas from.
Have you considered using it also as a, you mentioned strategy, so I want to just touch on that for a little bit more. Um, Even like planning out your calendar of,
Oh,
content.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's an excellent use for it. It's just
Mhm.
talking about your audience, your goals, and then having that plan out. Absolutely. And can also think through because you don't want to be on every channel.
Yeah.
You just want to be on the channel that your audience is on. And so it can help you with that whole content strategy as well as the content calendar aspect of it as well.
Right, right. So you can plan it, you can strategize around it, you can build your calendar around it. You can actually improve your quality of content because, as you said, you have time to think,
Yep.
right, and to actually prompt, more effectively, I guess, with what you think you want to talk about. And I think the big thing, the last big thing you said was that it's not about the features; it's about what it does, the features do for your target audience at the end of the
Exactly.
day, right? And then the other area you also talked about was your website and being able to segment your landing pages or even your email, and you could segment your email. So talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely, that's been a huge one is the segmenting emails because
Hmm.
sometimes it's hard enough to just write the email. And so, and then to have the extra layer of, oh, I'm going to have to write it for different audiences. It, of
Yeah,
course, depends on your business if you do have different segments or not.
yeah.
But if you do, it's really impactful to change that messaging so it's going to be most targeted towards their wants, their needs.
Hmm.
And so being able to have that extra layer where
Yeah.
you otherwise it just wouldn't have maybe been attainable is that's really helpful. And then I'm also with targeting the the website copy too. I think within marketing, at least
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm alone in this, but there's so much like I'm haunted by all these things I should be doing because there's so much to do and there's so many possibilities, but this
Yeah.
makes it possible to put more add more on that list. So it's like, oh, well, I know it is if you have multiple audiences,
Hmm.
depending on what you're driving for, it can be a best a best practice to have targeted landing pages,
Hmm.
but that takes a lot of time.
Sure.
Now
Yeah.
that's like you can do it so quickly.
Hmm. So, but that requires people to have knowledge then on how to do that, right? And is that where some of these smaller companies, they may kind of say, yeah, I love what you're saying, but it's hard to go execute. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a really good point because like the strength of AI is that like a Venn diagram of you have AI expertise or you have those AI skills, but you have your own expertise and knowledge in a field, and then
Yeah.
bringing that together has a lot of strength. I
Hmm.
think if you're not familiar with marketing, AI can help you with marketing. You just
Yeah.
may not be as effective
Hmm.
but if it's, if you're like, I'm a solopreneur and I can't outsource my marketing, I just need AI to help me.
Yeah.
AI can help you to get the basics done, and at least you have the basics.
Right.
But I think, but if you want to bring in someone that is familiar with marketing,
Hmm.
training them up and reskilling them with AI skills to put on top of that makes them a formidable force.
Sure, sure. So, I totally agree. So from a talent perspective, there's a whole reskilling part to it. I totally get that.
Big time.
And even for solopreneurs, I guess I consider myself to be doing that as well as part of, besides my university work at South Carolina, I'm obviously, also having, consulting work as well. And I find that content creation, as you said, that's like, like it takes time to think through what you want to talk about. But then, I'm even thinking about now things like you were saying, like, having a website and having it, having different versions of that. I don't know how to do that, so I'm like sitting there thinking like, how do I go about doing that, right? So that's where those kinds of people. I think those are the kinds of places where people get stuck. Is it just using ChatGPT, or is it like using specific tools to help you do that?
And it would be a mix, and that's one of those and ChatGPT can help you too if you're like, "I heard that this is a thing that could be helpful, and walk
Yeah,
me through the steps." It's
yeah,
gonna of course, it'll help the learning curve if you already are familiar, but
mm,
ChatGPT could help you, can instruct you, but it would be that's perfect for just creating that copy for you and
mhm,
feeding it like, "These are my business goals, this is my target audience, this is my current copy, how can I
yeah,
improve it?"
mhm,
And then it could even give you ideas on design, but then you want to pull in other tools like Canva. It depends on what your website is built on. And so you would start using more of your tech stack to then
yeah.
really make that all come together.
Yeah, I've just started playing with Canva, and I'm pretty impressed with what it can do. So
I am impressed too. I've loved Canva for a long time. I know some
yeah.
people have in the past didn't respect it, I feel like, as it deserves. Now, the way that it has embraced AI and has created this whole marketplace for the tools,
Mhm.
it's fantastic.
Really? Wow. Okay, I have to spend more time on it then.
I think so. I'm also not a designer, so maybe people that are designers might feel differently, but it makes it at least for it makes I feel like I'm able to create
Mhm.
work that looks good, that's
Yeah.
easy, and it's it's really impressive what you can do for 12.99 a month or something.
I
It's
know, exactly, right? So,
yeah.
okay, so we talked about personalization in a way, right? That was a big
Mhm.
space that we just talked about. But you also kind of like touched on segmentation. So
Yeah.
tell me about segmentation. I have thoughts on this, but I want to hear yours. So,
I would love to hear your thoughts too. I mean, AI is segmentation. Some folks don't know what their audience segments are because they might think everyone's my
mhm,
my client or my audience, and no, probably not because that's hard. And
yeah,
so it's being able to utilize AI to find both like who your target audience is, and then once you have that target audience is when you're interacting with them, then getting that data and using that data to identify segments within that. So it
mhm,
could be age group, it could be product types, affinities. You can slice it a lot of different ways,
yeah.
and it will help inform how to maybe slice that and experiment.
Amazing. Yeah. So you were asking, you were curious about what I was thinking about this, right? So I actually designed a custom GPT tool to actually do segmentation. So
Awesome.
yeah. So I've now had 3 or 4 specific use cases now where I've actually utilized it, and I'm not even using company proprietary data. I'm just using the large language model, and I'm getting very close to what they are getting with their proprietary data.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
the big aha that I got was like, oh my gosh, like, can we do this? Number one, that was like one big, like aha moment for me. But the other aha moment was that I've even done this work in a couple of instances for like very niche product categories,
Mhm.
and it was pretty damn close. So
That's what's the name of the custom GPT? Because I want to play with it. That sounds.
I
Is it?
don't have it available in the GPT store because
Oh,
I'm realizing
yeah.
there's a monetary value for that, right?
That's yeah. That makes
But I,
sense.
but you and I can talk separately about that. But it's called
Yeah.
Y2S segmentation. So with my
Wow.
consulting, right? So,
That's so
um,
smart.
it's pretty impressive what you can build out basically in terms of segmentation. Um, I'm just curious to see where this technology will go because with all these other new tools coming out now, from Gemini and from Google and everybody else, it's going to open up the doors even more, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Oh, it's like I'm feel dizzy from all the updates in the last 3 weeks. It's incredible, and especially we're on a very rapid and exciting trajectory, I think. But yeah, it's not just, OpenAI and Anthropic's Claude, like, there's
Yeah.
a lot of options now that they're all really strong.
So I want to tie that point you just made with automation, and I want to be very specific in the example. You were talking on TikTok recently about Notebook and some things that you were identifying on Notebook LM. So
Yes.
first, tell us what Notebook LM is. Tell us what does it do, and then tell us what you found out, and how could you use Notebook in different situations so people know how to use that application, basically.
Oh, absolutely. So Notebook LM is a product by Google, and it's an
Mhm,
AI product. And originally, it's been just, and it still is used for to help you with research
mhm,
and learning. And so you can throw in all of your different research, PowerPoints, documents, links, and then it compiles it, and AI generates like FAQs and notes and briefs about it. But that's not what's so fun about it. What's so fun is that now you can also you say audio overview and it creates this two-person conversational podcast about the material, which is great if you're learning about something because then you can at least I learn a lot more best through a podcast and just a casual conversation. And if anyone's used it, you realize how alarmingly good it is at
mhm.
creating this natural conversation about the subject. What blew my mind is I was using it one day and playing around with it, and then they had released this beta feature that I didn't realize, and so I clicked on it, and it's was to interact with the podcast, and so it's like, what is this? And
Yeah,
and then now, so you create this podcast. I did one as an example, like nuclear energy, an interesting subject. And
yeah.
then you can pop in and you just say join, and then you can just ask them questions, and then you're a part of the conversation, which is wild. I mean, it's very beta. It definitely room for improvement, but I think, I started clicking, and I'm sure you did too, Yogesh, of just like, wow, the implications of what this means. And as soon as we have more levers available and some customization,
Yeah,
you can have an AI podcast with human guests on it. You can have an AI co-host and then have guests like it was really fascinating. And I think it's so interesting from a scalability perspective because and also quality. Like, I think we don't wanna just make a ton of crap,
yeah,
because I think that's what's happening a lot, and it's gonna continue to happen with when things are so easy to make, being
yeah,
sure to challenge and make sure that it's of value to your customers. But
yeah.
I think you can both have scale and value with this.
Amazing. Yeah, I did not know about that beta feature until I saw your video, and I actually tried it out. Because I had uploaded a couple of presentations into Notebook, and I was already kind of like blown away by the podcasting feature aspect of it. Um, but that interactivity piece is like next level
It
because
is.
because you're not even talking to a person, you're talking to an AI voice avatar, if whatever word or digital twin. I don't even know what to call it actually at this point, but it's
It
it,
It's
it was
so
great.
engaging. I'm so glad, and some
Yeah,
folks have been asked, like, "What's the difference between that and advanced voice mode with ChatGPT?" It's like, "No,
yeah,
this is different because this is multiple AIs, it's like creating this whole world and dynamic that you can join into."
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. And your point about, like, it being an AI co-host, I think Jamie just posted a comment on that. Um, that's a use case, right? That could change the way people do podcasting. Maybe you're not talking to me personally; you're talking to my digital twin that's connected to Notebook. Who knows? So, but are there other use cases that you've come up with so far, for Notebook, that would be helpful, or not yet?
As it is now, it's pretty limiting because you don't have it. There's not a lot of customization that you can do with it, and you can't really like even if it says a business name wrong, you have to
Yeah,
regenerate the whole thing. And so, I think I've heard of other folks using it as just if they do education, they're like, "Hey, I have had some thoughts on this topic. I put my research in and I've created a podcast about it, but not marketing it as this is my podcast. It's just another way to access their information.
yeah,
But I mean, I think it's important that we all know what's coming and start planning for when and inevitably when we're
mhm,
able to use this and customize it more,
yeah,
what would be most impactful for us? How would we use it? And I think about, I mean, of course, podcasts, but also just being able to have different types of podcasts. One that's a bit
mm,
more casual, like this. I feel like the one that Notebook Ellen's created is very young, and
yeah.
which is nice. It's fun, it's fresh, and you can reach a
Sure.
younger audience with it.
I agree with you. And one of the things, so I told you before we started the podcast that I'm teaching 4 classes, this spring semester. One of the classes is called AI in Marketing. It's a 7-week class for my MBA students. Classes start on Tuesday. I'm actually, and by the way, we've never done this before, doing it for the first time. I have to generate all the content for the class, right? But one of the things I was thinking about, I would love to hear your thoughts, and I'm doing this live and I'm completely like airing my dirty laundry here in the process, is that I wanted them to use Notebook LM as a project tool so that when they're working in teams, as each of them are doing their respective elements of the work, they're uploading it into Notebook LM, and then they can all kind of like keep abreast on what's happening. What do you think of that as an idea?
I think that's smart. I mean, I think it's a great like central database in general, but I think it also gets them more fluent with the technology.
Mhm.
And if there's more information, they can just listen to a podcast about something new. I think that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So I'll let you know in a couple of weeks how that's going, but um, I'm just trying to figure out how to like leverage technology like this to help people get organized to kind of like, does it help with collaboration? Is it like next level collaboration? I don't know yet, but I have a suspicion that it could be, you know?
I think so. I think so. I haven't actually used it for collaboration yet, but I'm sure you could. Google's always
Yeah.
good about making it for teams.
Exactly, exactly. So let's go back and let's brought it back up because I know we both got excited about the whole Notebook LM thing, but talk about campaign automation. Like from a general perspective, are there tools that you've come across that you find interesting? Would just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. For automation in general, my favorite tool is make.com. And it's basically a different Zapier is one that's used
Mhm,
for automation. It's just a interface to be able to connect all different applications together.
mhm,
But I think what's so important and helpful about automation or just marketing automation in general is that if there is a routine thing that is done that needs to happen, it is a perfect way to offload your something that's a bit of a drag on your time
mhm,
and just automate it. And so that's one of those areas where it's sometimes it can be death by a thousand paper cuts of these little things that just chip at your time. And so finding campaign automation of posting like, okay, we have a blog post. Now we're going to automatically post on these channels and that it'll be optimized for these channels. Automatically pulling and searching via Perplexity for maybe recent news articles, and then pulling that in and then generating blog topics from that. There's so many different ways that it just depends on how you work. And so it's
right.
really important. I think the key with that campaign automation is you have to be really clear on what are your standard operating procedures and
Mhm,
then seeing like, okay, this is where could I imbue AI and just offload that. Of course, always having an eye on it because you don't want AI to go rogue, but
yeah, of course.
always having your finger on the pulse. But something that, and then you have that gives you that space to then think more, work on your business and not so much in it.
Yeah, yeah. So, to your point about like the whole standard operating procedure piece of it, I was listening to somebody else's, video on that very topic, and he was saying that what if you were to use, say, like, ChatGPT to first help you identify what your SOP should be,
Oh yeah,
right? And then use it with your team if you have a team, or if it's just you, is that exactly what you're doing or not? Add information into that, and then re-upload it into like a tool like make.com or Zapier or whatever, and then that actually then, now that you've done all that due diligence work already of what your process needs to be, then have those tools actually then create the process for you in a way. So it
that's so
becomes
smart.
it's a full 360 in that sense, basically. So I again never done it yet, so I don't know if it's how easy or difficult it would be to do. But if anybody has done that, would love to hear your stories on that. Actually, so
I think it's smart of like pulling in AI at any point that it could be helpful. And also when it comes to standard operating procedures, I think that's
Mhm.
so key to just to know how you do things and kind of your secret sauce to making it be the way it is,
Yeah,
because that is so informs what you tell AI.
yeah,
And that's what's going to make it not general, but really valuable and impactful for your business, but also if you're creating marketing content for your audience.
right, exactly. So last area that I want to just kind of like touch on a little bit is predictive analytics. Is that an area that you've spent some time working on at all, or not yet?
Slightly, not I don't go in there too much, but there is one tool that I will plug because I like it,
Okay.
is Akkio. It's been an interesting Akkio,
Okay.
and back when I worked in, paid media. I wish this existed so badly. It would have saved me so much
Mm,
time. But within predictive analytics is because when it comes to large language models, that's not necessarily their strength. If you're, it's more
yeah,
words. Words are more their strength. They're getting better at numbers.
yeah.
Um, but there is other AI technology that is good at predictive analytics, and
Hmm.
Accio is an example of that. But there's a lot of other tools too, and where you can upload spreadsheets, and then you can just talk to your data, and then
Mm,
it uses that. And so I'm like, hey, what trends are you seeing? Like, how could we remap this to
mm,
um, like any outliers, and then create charts, and then from there, based on this, how could we predict what maybe like seasons that we should be pushing certain products? Well, how
mm.
could we, and even with content, you can use that as predictive analytics of like, okay, what was performing the best? What's our recommendations? And so it runs all of that automatically in that tool, and I'm sure other tools as well.
Wow. I had not heard about this one. I will have to check it out because
Play
this
with
is,
it.
yeah. And most of these platforms usually have like a free version of it too. I would hope this one does too,
Exactly. I
right?
think this one has a free trial.
Oh, perfect. I will be all over it this weekend. So it's top of mind for me as well for something else that I'm working on. So perfect. So tell me, bringing it back to SMBs for a second, like, they have limited resources. They are already trying to do so many different things. We talked about all these different areas where AI can actually help. If someone's on the listening to this podcast and they're like, okay, Jenna, this is great, Yogesh, this is great, where do I even start? What would be your recommendation?
I would start in I know that sometimes the most limited resource is, time and money, but
Yeah,
time. And so it's
yeah.
allocating your time to just start experimenting with an LLM. So that would be
Hmm.
Chat GPT or Claude, like Anthropic's Claude. I would
Yeah.
be, I think, the best starting point. There are free versions, but I think I know it is definitely worth the $20 a month because you just get a higher grade of model.
Hmm.
And just using your time to just both use your time to be familiar with the current capabilities, and a lot of that can be seen through just practicing with it and
Yeah.
saying, okay, can it solve this problem? And then you start to get a feel for it, and there really is a feel with AI
Hmm.
where you're like, okay, this worked, and you start practicing prompting and communicating with it. And then from there you can start delegating tasks, but it's
Hmm.
really just start using it and start challenging yourself to not just be entrenched in your own habits of doing it yourself this one way. It's like bring in AI, see how it can help,
Yeah.
because the more you do that, the more that you'll be able to be comfortable with all of the advancements that are coming.
I totally agree with you. And just to make the point, that what you're saying, I use AI sometimes to help me think through my presentations that I'm going to give at conferences. And not too long ago, I was doing this presentation at a pretty large conference in Orlando, and the conference got delayed because of the hurricanes and all that kind of stuff. So, long story on that. But um, since I had time, I went back to AI and I uploaded my presentation that I'd already created, and I said, poke holes on my presentation and tell me what kind of questions I could get asked. And oh my God, it gave me such an amazing assessment of where all the holes were. I went back and I actually redesigned my presentation to take in those points into account. And when I presented it, it was like, oh, people were like, yeah, that's exactly what we needed to hear from you, kind of thing. So, you mentioned, early in the podcast about this is like a teammate. We forget that this can also be a thinking partner for you as well.
Totally. And that's such a good, because that's out of your typical mode of behavior to like
Yeah.
bounce it off this like other coworker,
Mhm.
because it's typically just you, but that's such a great example of kind of like, all right, I have this resource, let me take a step back, how could I utilize it more? And I've used it for something similar, and it's so helpful.
Yeah, exactly right. So so you said start playing with it. Pick one of the tools. You don't have to pick all of them. Just pick one of
Oh
them.
yeah, just pick one. It's so overwhelming, and I
Yeah,
think it's easy to feel overwhelmed. It's hard not to feel overwhelmed. So
yeah.
just start with an LLM, and then also just start with something that zero in on what could be what could be a driver for your
Hmm.
business. Like, okay, marketing, let's just focus on marketing, sales, something.
Yeah.
So it's not everything. It's just chip away one at a time, and but
Mhm.
make sure that it's something that could actually be impactful for you. So it
Yeah.
makes the time more worth it.
Exactly. So, when you said like about sales as well, so like when you're thinking about like lead gen, or you're thinking about
Absolutely.
even customer retention, there are ways you could use the AI tools to help you think that through in a way, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it can even you can practice sales calls on with it as
Mm.
well, or any pitches, angles, material. It's excellent for. So, but yeah, definitely pitch decks. You can straighten like, how can I tighten this?
Yeah.
This is the feedback I received from my last lead. You
Yeah.
know, how could that inform? Or this is like your approach too. Like, hey, this is I haven't heard back from my lead in a while, but this is what they expressed.
Yeah.
What's something I maybe should try this next time?
How invaluable is that? That's great insight and great perspective there, and that's actionable for people. In terms of how to literally have an impact with an AI tool, like literally tomorrow, in fact, if you wanted to, right? So,
Oh, absolutely. My big call out is be specific with the tool. I think I've seen a lot of cases of where folks might have high expectations. They
yeah.
try the LLM and they just kind of put in a general prompt and then they're not pleased with the output
Hmm.
because, you put in something general, you get something general.
Hmm.
So definitely like commit, take your time and be very clear and specific about what you want.
Hmm.
Treat it like it's a new coworker or a
Hmm.
new hire where you're like, this is what I want. This is the background that you need. And
Yeah.
this is considered what would be helpful. So
Hmm.
it's really clear of what it needs. And with that specificity, it's awesome.
I totally agree. So now I'm going to kind of like play a little bit with you on the on all the fear factors that are out there, right? Um, let's start with the you already brought one up, about general versus specific, but are there other pitfalls that you feel that people might fall into if they are not clear about how to use AI?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, the prompting one is a big one, and then also sometimes people are too trusting with it, and so there's some wisdom with AI, and they
Hmm.
think, oh, AI, it's error free. It's like, oh no, it's you need to make sure that there's always we call it a human in the loop,
Yeah.
but that you're always just same as if you had an intern that was working for you and then was going to turn in something and have
Yeah.
your name on it. Ultimately, you're responsible for it. And so it's gotten a lot better about hallucinating and having errors, but it can still happen. So that's a pitfall too, is just don't be totally trusting.
Yeah.
You need to kind of like still be engaged. You don't want to fall asleep at the wheel.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. What about like creativity? How have you found any of these tools, these large language models, in helping you with creativity?
Oh, it helps so much, and it's so funny because it's like you think a robot.
Yeah.
How could that be? But it is. It's helps me think of different perspectives, and it helps, which I love. It's even if you think about there's different ways of creativity. There's in writing and angles. It brings up. There's so many. There's just such a vast amount of ideas.
Hmm.
All of them are not good, but there's having that volume can
Hmm.
really help me spur. I'm like, "Oh, that's a great angle. Let's go deeper on this." And
Yeah.
it's helped me get out of my own modes.
Hmm.
And then also on the visual front, that's been improving so much. What
Hmm.
Midjourney can do now, what now with Sora and video generation,
Yeah.
um, that's and the AI avatars, which are getting better too. It's just this all these mediums that I wouldn't have had been able to utilize before.
Yeah.
Even CGI characters, so expensive to make in the past. Now you can
Hmm.
do it. And so that's also a way of being able to use creativity and express these ideas in so many more formats than we would have been able to otherwise.
Yeah. On the CGI side, there's a character called Miquela, if you're familiar with her.
I haven't.
Oh my gosh. The company that's making Miquela made $11 million in revenue just on this AI influencer.
What?
It's yeah, I know. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So to your point, like there were like 10 or 11 like AI influencers that are out there, all female, by the way. I don't know why that's the case, but we'll leave it.
Weird.
But they're all generating a lot of awareness, and companies are saying, okay, we'll use them, and as part of our brand, influencer strategy. You know, and big name companies, by the way, like Prada, for example, and Gucci have used them.
Wow. Oh, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. So on one side, you talked about creativity and how this can help you think outside of your own head and your sandbox, if you want to call it that. Love that as an example. What about the critical thinking side of it? Because if you get like 100 different ideas, as you said, some are going to be good, some may not be as good. How do you apply critical thinking to that?
It's I mean it's both. It's going to be like my own expertise and opinions. So that's also like be careful if you're just if
Yeah.
going for it and you don't feel like you have that kind of insight to share. But
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, when it comes to critical thinking, it's like you yourself talking to the AI, but then also AI is really good at critical thinking. So
Yeah.
using that too, not to offload everything because I think it's the strength is in the combination of the human and AI output and experience. But definitely utilizing like, hey, take a step back, like this might be really fun and exciting idea, but does it drive towards my business results that I'm looking for? Like, is it feasible from a cost perspective? Is it into just to kind of overlay whatever kind of criteria you need for that
Hmm.
creative output?
Yeah.
Just kind of always putting yourself in check, and that's a fast way to do it.
Right. Sorry, I'm still fighting a cold.
Oh
So
no!
been there for 4 weeks.
Oh, I
It
hope it
refuses to
feels
go.
better.
Refuse to go. Thank you. So as you were talking about that, I agree with you. Like, there's a critical thinking. Don't offload everything to AI. Totally agree with that. Um, are there ethical considerations that we also have to take into account?
There are, and there's a number of them, to be honest. There's ethical considerations regarding like art as well. And so there's an example of a platform that's doing it really well and ethically is 11 Labs, who does AI voiceover. That is very good, by the way, if you want to
Mhm.
use it. But all of the voice talent gets paid. And so they've volunteered. Nothing's just getting stolen and scraped from
Mhm.
the web um, and then not repaying the artists or the contributors. So
Yeah.
11 Labs is, but Mid Journey, a lot of I imagine Sora, like a lot of these other ones, it's this ethical gray area that I don't have the answer to be honest. But it is a consideration to it's a big consideration. So there's that ethical side of just it being stolen in some ways.
Mhm.
But then also, we all just take ideas and then make them our own. But it's so there's that ethical, but then there's also when it comes to data and your customers' data, and then of
Mhm.
course your proprietary data, you just need to be careful. And by be careful, if it's customer data, of course, always following the laws of your land, what that is. And then whenever you're going to utilize an AI tool, just really looking at the terms of service because that's going to spell out their safety, how
Mhm.
they're going to use it, and just make sure that you're comfortable with that.
Right. And I would also encourage people to have their own language that they put into contracts, especially if they intend to use any AI tools just to protect themselves at the end of the day,
Oh, that's so smart. Yes.
right? Like I do that with my contracts, for example. I use OpenAI. I'm dependent on OpenAI's privacy and security policies. On the account that I have, I can't do anything above and beyond what they are telling me, in a sense. So I'm very clear. I don't use company proprietary data unless if they give me written permission to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and if that's in writing, then they understand the risk of what's happening. I've shared it and communicated the risk, and therefore then it's the client's decision, not mine, if they want their data being put into an OpenAI platform at the end of the day, knowing what all these situations could be, basically.
Yogesh, that's so wise. And it's all about transparency.
Hmm.
And I think it's always weighing the costs and the benefits because OpenAI, if you have like a Plus account or a Teams account, like there's extra levels of security. And if it's,
Hmm.
if it's not super top secret information, you're going to get so much benefit that it should be fine. But if
Yeah.
when we're talking about like customer data or just anything like
Yeah.
regarding PII, then that's, be very careful.
Exactly. And and here's a workaround that I would actually suggest to people, which is that if you wanted to use some of the data, anonymize it, right?
Yeah.
Anonymize it to the point where you have as a client, you have your data, and in your systems with all the PII information, you have you don't share that with the vendor. You just have it anonymized, and you have some sort of like numbering system or whatever, or customer code or whatever, and that way they're protected and you're protected as well. So because nobody can then bring it back to it's customer A or B or C or whatever the case may be, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And there's so many tools out there too that they might utilize the, OpenAI technology, but they've built a wrapper over it that's
Mhm.
has a large level of security on it. And
Okay,
so so there's it just kind of depends on like, all right, what level of security do I need? Then finding that tool that can supply that.
got it. So tell me something about we talked about, like, getting started. People may still feel a bit intimidated, right? um, you've already given some really good, sage advice in terms of how to get past that intimidation phase. But tell me about okay, I got started, I've started playing with it. How do I keep that momentum going?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think so. Always pushing yourself to try new things. And
Hmm.
so there's two different ways that I go. There's one that is maybe silly, but I found really helpful is that at the end of the week, I have like a reflections sheet. And I think about like what in my day did I do multiple times or multiple times this week that I could have used AI for. And so that challenges my habits because a big part is just like old habits die hard. And so it's you breaking and thinking about like how can I utilize AI more, and so you're getting comfortable with it, but like pushing yourself and challenging yourself to bring it in more to your daily work is key. And
Hmm.
then as you do that, it's also okay. Well, now I'm getting comfortable with the basics. What
Yeah.
new things can we try? And so that's when you might want to start experimenting with either new use cases for it and using the same tool, or branching out and trying some new tools as well
Yeah.
as you get more comfortable.
That's amazing. I love that. So, with what you just said, I'm going to ask you then, what's on your horizon? What are you experimenting with and trying out right now?
That's such a good question. I just recently started playing with Sora, and what's on my list is agents. I know it's the hot buzzword.
Yeah.
So that is big time on my list because I'm familiar with automations, but this goes beyond that. And so I want to get in on it.
I see. I know. So people may not know what agents are. So do you want to just take a minute to explain that?
Absolutely. And I want to be honest, I'm speaking theoretically because my
Mm.
experience, the agents I've tried have not been successful, but it's been like 3 months, which is a lifetime in AI time.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
supposedly there's some new good ones, but autonomous agents is where you can give an AI a task and then it can do actions on your behalf that you can set it up if it needs to have certain guardrails to check in with you, but it
Mhm.
can have that thinking process of it's not just like a robot that's like I did this and then it didn't work and it keeps bumping into a wall, but it's
Yeah.
able to figure out like, oh, this is the objective, how different routes can I take to reach that objective? And then depending on how much um, freedom you give it for it to then make actions and like write the email, send the email,
Mhm.
and in a way that you're not having to build out each automation step, which is what I have been doing in the past, and it's great.
Yeah.
But this, in theory, is where it does it for you.
Amazing. Amazing. I don't know if this is an agent model or not, but have you heard about Storm from
I
Stanford
haven't.
University? I
No.
think it came out this week. Um, and essentially, you give it a prompt. It literally does like your research paper for you. So, if there are any students listening to you to this is the time to sign off, basically, because your teachers will not be happy with what I'm about to say. But um, you give it a prompt, it'll do the full analysis, it'll pull data from the web, whatever it is.
Wow.
What it also does is it has like almost like a roundtable discussion that happens on that topic. So it'll create these avatars, like an AI researcher, the content specialist, the brand marketer, the market research specialist, and it has a conversation on that topic, whatever the topic is, and you can see from all the different perspectives, and it pulls that whole thing together basically for you. So I'm not sure if it's an agent model or not, but
It
um,
sounds like it might be. That's amazing. That
yeah, yeah. So it just came out this week. It's called Storm AI, and in fact, I think the roundtable one's called CoStorm. Um,
wow.
so play around with it. I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Basically, because I was kind of like stunned by the level of detail it could get into in the analysis and stuff like that.
I
So.
can't wait to play with it. That's also what folks have been doing is they create these agents and then multiple this team of agents that can
Mhm,
really do a lot. There's a a contact that I know that has a business that's basically run on agents. And I'm like, please tell me how you do that because that is so cool.
exactly, exactly. So, if you had a call to action for people listening today, what would that be?
It would be if, especially if you're a small to medium sized business, if you haven't gotten into AI or you've been hesitant about it, do it now. And if you are kind of into it, get stronger in it, really challenge yourself to bring it in more, challenge your habits. Because I work with SMBs, but I also work with enterprises as well. And
Mhm,
what I've seen is that there's a lot of money being invested within
mhm,
enterprises in AI, but it is such a massive undertaking to reskill
mhm,
everyone and put in the process that even though it looks like there's a lot of money because there is, there's a lot of work to do before they catch up.
mhm.
So this is your time. It's
Great.
like this is your time. You use the fact that you're smaller, that you're nimble. It does not have to be expensive. Um, just really like you're truly bound by your own creativity. So, and it's not too late. Like, I don't know. There's sometimes people feel like it's too early, or sometimes it's so much change that it's too late. It's not.
Yeah,
The big boys have not caught up yet, but they will. So do it
that's
now.
true. That's true. And somebody said to me the other day that we're still at when you think about when the World Wide Web launched back in the 90s, where we are with AI right now is like 1997.
That's what I've heard too. Oh, it's crazy.
Right? So it's like we are in the early days. We don't even know where all this stuff is going to go. But having those of us who saw the that change happen, the internet change that happened back in the 90s, that there's a lot more we can do. So it's all about trying to get ahead of the curve if you can, basically, right?
Oh, and for the folks that were dialed in 1997, oh, they're in a good place now. So I wish that for all of us on this
Yeah,
new
exactly.
wave.
Well, Jenna, thank you so much. This has been an incredible 45 minutes of listening to you, give your words of wisdom to all of us. So, really, really appreciate you taking the time to do that. For those of you who want to connect with Jenna, do you want to share where they should connect with you?
Oh, absolutely. So I run a consulting agency called Dunes AI Consulting, but I also just talk about AI all the time on social media. So if you want to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, it's Jenna underscore Gardner underscore AI.
There you
And
go.
send me your questions.
Yep. Well, thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. If you have more questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. We will, Jenna and I will be checking, okay, regularly to make sure that we answer them. I saw Severine had already posted about Storm. She and I were talking about it just a couple of days ago. Elizabeth also had, I think, I don't know what exactly the idea is, but she was just dropping a comment as well. By the way, Elizabeth's going to be my next guest in 2 weeks' time on January 24th. So thanks, Elizabeth, for listening in as well. So thanks, everyone. Thank you, Jenna, once again for being here. And we will see you in 2 weeks.